moist and delicious.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or whatever time you're watching this. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, it's gonna be bullshit to a lot of people, and it should be bullshit to me. But for some reason, I am interested, so I've decided to make a video about it. So, back in September, I made a video about the game that released pretty much the day before, called Class of '09, the Flipside, part of the Class of '09 series, which I was a fan of. And the Flipside, to put it bluntly, is kind of a flaming pile of hot garbage, and that could be mean to the garbage. Sorry. Anyway, from what you can see on my screen here, SBN3, the developer of these games, is suing people who criticized him for defamation. I've read the public documents. It mentions this individual specifically, according to him, and then obviously about 20 or so Jane/John Does, including a Discord apparently that was involved. I don't know anything about the Discord server, so I don't think you can really. Okay, before we get into it, let's just break SBN3 down as a person from what we know about him, and from what we've heard about him. He's a credibly egotistic, narcissistic, bit of a weirdo, guy who doesn't like being called cringe, okay? And let's also establish that the fan base for Class of '09 is incredibly disconnected from him because they are two different views of the world here. So, the flip side was always intended to be bad. Always. Because SBN3 has done this in the past where he gets somewhat popular or something, doesn't like his fan base, so he just nukes it by releasing something horrible. And I shouldn't say no in case I get sued, but it's pretty evident that Flipside was intended to flop. We've seen screenshots from his Discord servers talking about, oh, why would I work hard in a game that's not going to get covered by journalists? Or like, oh, I'm rushing the game, or blah, blah, whatever. Now, yes, he is correct. Class of '09 is not really going to be covered by any big-name journalists. That's just visual novels rarely get covered anyway, and then visual novels with crass humor like Class of '09 are even less so. And Class of '09 is a word-of-mouth series. So I heard about it off of a Twitter post, and I was able to hunt it down, and I played it, and I liked it, and it was fun. But it's all word of mouth. There's no like YouTube trailers or YouTube ads or anything like that. And another thing you have to know about Class of '09, and all this will matter as we get into the video, a good chunk of the fan base hasn't bought the games, right? They're $15 each, and then some of them aren't like, you don't get a lot of content in the first one. The second one you do, and then the third one you get even less than the other two. So are we really going to spend $45, for like, let's just say 14 hours of gameplay across all three games, right? Not really, no. So a good chunk of the fan base just like looked it up on YouTube or had their, or watched their buddies do it. So remember that. These games, although popular, are not the type of games that go, that explode, right? Now that we've established that, he is trying to sue for defamation based on the fact that, hold on, it's in a reply here. Defamation led directly to the loss of potential sales in Class of '09. The flip side, now this original post came out after the release of the Flipside, which came out in September. This post, unless I'm really dumb and my math is wrong, this post came out in November? I don't know it doesn't tell me the exact date when this was made. Maybe it was, it doesn't tell me the exact date this was made. So I can only presume this is 6 months ago from this month, which would put it in November, although it could have been posted in September, I guess. And defamation is incredibly hard to prove on a normal level, right? It's even harder to prove if you're a public figure, right? Which is why actors can't sue people who call them a shitty actor, right? If they could do that, Gal Gadot would be a billionaire. Sorry. Just woke up, so my throat's all clogged. Uh, but defamation, now once again, my knowledge of the law extends purely from politics, which is more my baseball field. Um, so all my like law knowledge is from there. So I could be completely wrong here. And if any lawyers watching this and want to just like own my ass in the comments, please feel free. Um, Proving defamation led to loss of sales is probably even harder, especially as a public figure. So, like, defamation is a term that includes both slander and libel. Generally, slander occurs when the reputation or good name of someone is damaged. Let's be real here, SBN3 has never had a good name, but obviously the judge isn't going to know that. As a result of false statements that are orally made, libel, on the other hand, occurs when false statements regarding one another are put in writing. Whether a particular statement, oral or written, constitutes defamation, the nature of slander and libel will depend on particular circumstances in question to the identity of the parties. Prevail in a defamation lawsuit, a plaintiff must prove that the defendant made a false and defamatory statement about the plaintiff that was communicated to a third party. Thus, a false, objectionable statement sent in an email to the plaintiff's coworker may be libelous. Plaintiff can usually succeed by showing the communication was either intentional or at least negligent. Finally, it's possible for the plaintiff to bring a libel suit where the plaintiff himself repeats the alleged defamatory statement. This is called self-publication. This can occur, for example, when an individual applies for a job, has to tell the prospective employer about something their previous employer said that was false. Before beginning a libel or slander lawsuit, plaintiff must determine whether or not the objectionable statement is true. No matter how damaging, insensitive, rude, or inappropriate a statement may be, the plaintiff will lose if the statement is true. The public plaintiff has additional hurdles to overcome to recover for libel and slander. An example of a public figure is a politician, along with establishing all the regular elements of the tort. A plaintiff who is a public figure must also show that the defendant knew the false statement was false, or at least acted with reckless disregard as to its truthfulness. Newspapers may escape liability for libel when they merely report false statements as long as the paper had no particular reason to doubt the statement at the time it was printed. Finally, the plaintiff often has to prove economic harm in order to recover a defamation suit. Therefore, the plaintiff may need to be able to demonstrate loss of business as a result of the defamation in order to establish a right to recovery of money. However, some types of statements are so damaging that the plaintiff does not have to prove any economic loss. These statements tend to be those that accuse the plaintiff of sexual impropriety, or criminal conduct. Okay, so that is defamation. So SBN3 will have to prove that this individual and the Discord. So the thing is about bringing up the Discord, even if they're talking shit about him in the Discord, that is a private, like, sector, or like private server. I don't know why I said sector. So proving, like, that really can't escape its own bubble, really. Now, on this Reddit thread, once again, I really don't think any of this can be proven for libel or defamation, because this guy doesn't really. Most accusations is just a description of this individual from his personal experience. So SBN3 will probably have to prove that he's not. Maybe he has to prove he's not using ghostwriters, but let's be real here, he probably is. Like has to prove that. I think the most like slanderous thing he said is that he's like a bit weird around teenage girls, which is like. Yeah, like, I never got the creep vibes from him until he brought a girl with him to meet me up IRL, and she looked way younger than him. So, like, this is personal experience. I don't necessarily know how SBN3 will be able to prove that it's not true. Just off personal... Because this isn't like, oh, I sent an email. This is just pure stuff that happened in the past, potentially. So, I don't know. I mean, once again... We have to remember, SBN3 has a large ego. He does. He has an ego on his head that he does not deserve to have. He thinks these games are a lot more popular than they are. But even, let me just open up the Steam page here. Or maybe I should go to Steam charts. It's probably a better... but, like, this only has 6,000 reviews, right? Or I guess, is there about 7,000 reviews, right, on the first game. Now, that obviously doesn't lead to the amount of players, but you know what I'm saying. Then we'll go to Class of 09, the re-up.
Do you want to go to...
Shut up. This has even less reviews. right? This has only about 4,000 reviews, and then we go to the Flipside. Although I don't even know if my Steam's being caught, but if it is, it doesn't matter. This has even less reviews, right? It's only got 3,000 or less than 3,000 reviews, right? So it's just you know, yeah, my Steam wasn't being caught, but just trust me. I guess we can go to the maybe Steam charts. Class of 09. All-time peak 364. That doesn't sound right, but I guess player. Can you review the game? I guess you can review the game without buying it. Yeah, peak of all time of 364. That sounds really low. That's actually surprising. I don't necessarily think this is accurate. But once again, it is just a game you can kind of watch on YouTube. Let me see here. 269 all time. Flipside. Oh, 928 all time peak. Okay. I don't know if these Steam analytics are accurate. I don't know how accurate this stuff is for stuff like this, but it feels a lot lower than I thought. Wow, I guess I'm giving them too much credit potentially. But yeah, the Flipside, right? These, as I said earlier, remember what I said earlier about these games are word of mouth games, and like you can consume the games like without even having to boot up Steam. Oh yeah, and look at that. Here's Skyblogs. Look at that. Although I don't know what that says, but like this guy has images and proof in the thread. So it's like how easy is it going to be for SBN3 to prove any of these things are false? I don't know. But in general, you have to remember to get back on some sort of track here. SBN3 is not trying to, like, actually, he's not suing for the reason that he says he is, right? He's suing to try to feed his ego, retaliatory. He's lashing out because his game flopped, and really his game wouldn't have flopped if he just made it a good game. But he is his own worst enemy. So this is purely a small man suing people to try to look like a big man. He's suing like over 20 people, right? And it's incredibly hard to prove a slap case. It's incredibly expensive to do it. In fact, I really doubt this even makes it to court. If it does, please go to Ash30816. He'll post a GoFundMe for his legal funds. I really don't think SBN3 should be allowed to just bully people for free. Yeah, it's. How do I wrap this up? Yeah, you know what? Let me just break SBN3 down a little bit. Let's look at Class of 09, put on our media literacy glasses for a moment, right? And let's look at Class of 09 past the character of life that it is. I think the correct way, or at least the way that most people interpret Class of 09, is it is a commentary on a male-dominated society where men are allowed to get away with heinous things because the people in power are men, and the women in power simply propagate the men doing that, or prop up the men doing that so that they can remain in power. This is seen in, I believe it's the second game, the re-up, where the principal, Nicole tries to go to the principal about all the pedophiles in the school, and the principal just says she can't do anything about it, because if she started firing people, she'd be seen as the bitchy boss, the man-hater, yada yada. So she's letting them just be horrible to save her reputation, right? And Nicole, a girl who is in a lot of mental health crisis, if it's on the list, she's probably got it, right? Depression, bipolar disorder, anger issues, yada yada yada. She is lashing out at the world in the only way she knows that keeps her safe, being mean and vitriolic, a lot specifically towards a lot of the men or authority figures in her life who have propagated this system that is keep trying to take advantage of her, right? This is seen by the way she acts around the adult females, all the men, and the ways that she treats women on generally nicer than the men, even though she's not a nice person at all, right? The Meg storyline doesn't count. Meg's just we know I'm talking about Meg. Right? So it's like, oh wow, it's a bit of a clever commentary, South Park-esque character, Volk, rash, but like, we see what you're trying to say. Now let's take off our media literacy glasses and put on our SBN3 glasses. SBN3 is a Jeffrey-style character, right? He is someone who sees women as objects and is angry that they never wanted to have sex with him, right? So he, now as an adult, it seems that he uses his figure of authority to maybe take advantage of women who are a lot younger than him, but I'm not going to get into that. He sees every woman as Nicole, right? As a mean, bitchy person who deserves whatever's coming to them. So, once again, there's that disconnect between him and his fan base, and also a peek into the type of person he is, of someone who just lashes out because he's angry, because he doesn't get his way, because women aren't falling over him for the world. He pretends the world beats him down, even though he's probably an incredibly privileged kid. And that really just sort of explains his actions, not only in this case, but throughout what we've seen in other games. I mean, even at the end of the Flipside, if you manage to trudge through all the endings like I did, and you get the secret phone message where he literally just says, anyone who doesn't like my game is a pedophile, you know, it's just that's the type of guy he is. But to wrap this up, I doubt this is going to go to court. SBN3 is a very small person, and you probably shouldn't even care about this. It's unfortunate that I do. But if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, or don't. I am not your mother, but you better brush your teeth. Now have a good one. Bye-bye.